All right. Well, thank you again, all of you, for being here this evening. This is our microdosing group, and we are jumping into a fun topic tonight where we're going to speak a little bit about things that might be coming top of mind as we're getting going with microdosing, and then we'll lead into some Q&A later, and definitely want to have opportunity for any questions or comments. But as you know, for those of you that have been here before, this is an interactive group. So I will get us going with an idea to kind of kick us off. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this. So humans have a substantial number of problems that they worry about each day. I'm just going to pause right there. Think about some of the things that you would consider problems in your life. Most of these problems are primarily focused on how we think others are perceiving us. So, intimate relationships, work colleagues, parents, other people's parents, neighbors, people that we drive alongside on the interstate, all sorts of other humans. Most of these problems that we have in our mind come from how we are perceiving that other people perceive us. But if we can recognize that the issues that we have created in our own mind are based off of information we've been given, our past experiences, our belief systems, our cultural experiences and understanding of the world, our perspectives on things, how that's shifted over time, how other people have treated us in the past based off of various things. If we can recognize that a lot of these issues are rooted in those prior beliefs and experiences, then we can start to recognize that we have control over what we hold on to and what our problems actually are. We get to
Mm.
choose to respond differently and to alleviate what I'm going to call the self-imposed suffering from said issues.
Oh,
All right, so that was kind of a lot of information. I'm going to back it up again. We have
right.
our daily problems we spend a lot of time worrying about. How is this going to turn out? What does so and so think of me? My partner or spouse responded to me a little bit differently today. What did I do? Why are they doing that? Is it about me? Is it about them? It's probably about their mom, but round and round we go down that rabbit trail. And then we go to work and we have other people that we interact with and start to think, okay, what are they thinking about me? Do they like me? Nobody said anything about my hair being different today. Or so and so gave me a really weird look. What are they thinking? Is it something that I said in the meeting that came across as really stupid? Why do I always say stupid things? Down that rabbit hole, then we start to go. These
Hmm.
problems that we create in our mind are self-imposed, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels very real. It feels like other people are choosing how they want to respond to us. And when we get wrapped up in those emotions of what we're experiencing in any given moment, then we start to really let our brain take us down that crazy train, like I just kind of described with some of those thoughts. Well, what if and what about and if only and fears about the future and as I say, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas from the past. And that leaves us with the what do I do right now? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to worry about it. So as the mind winds up with that, our brain and all of its intelligence decides it has to pick a coping mechanism because it's too much. Every single thought that we have requires a brain wave, which requires
Mm.
energy. So we literally are thinking ourselves tired and exhausted, but we don't necessarily perceive it that way. We think that we're thinking our way through all these problems that we have self-imposed on ourselves. We can even
Uh,
take a situation like a work like job, like a career, and say, I should be doing a different career. Okay, well, where does that really come from? Is it about the job that you're doing on a daily basis, or is it about the fact that you think you have more education than the person that's your manager? Definitely more life experience than the person that's your manager as we get into some of these higher age demographics. You got the young people coming in and running things, and that can feel really threatening. Instead of looking at it as an opportunity for new ideas or new ways of expansion, it becomes a threat to the way things have always been. So is it about that and how we're perceiving ourselves, or if we think we're appreciated or valued? Now, my boss doesn't talk to me as often as he used to. He's talking to Joe and Mary instead. So am I being left out? Am I going to get let go? Down that rabbit hole we can go.
Mm.
But all of this stuff that we just go on and on about in our minds is just information. We are just responding to information that is already in our brain. And if we can change that information and recognize that that's all it is, it's just a response to what's already there, then we have an opportunity to actually shift that and think differently about it. But it takes awareness and it takes stopping the crazy train, also known as our default mode network, as we've talked about in the past, and slowing that down, reducing that blood flow to the amygdala so we're not in that hyper vigilant fight or flight state and fear-based anymore, quieting down that inner chatter and being able to recognize this doesn't have to mean anything unless I decide that it does.
Mm.
I guess I feel like my friend and I, she lives in Toronto, and so we FaceTime once a week. And she and I have been talking about this, and we kind of came up with that we'll find ourselves playing a movie in our head, and it just gets to be too much. And I finally have to say, okay, stop the movie. And sometimes then a few minutes later, I'll pick the movie back up again. So I have to stop it again. And I'm trying to get to the point where I can stop the movie in the beginning because it keeps me from being here now. And it's not really truly living. It's being in some kind of, it's being in a movie. It's not reality.
Do you mind expanding at all on maybe what the theme of the movie is when you find yourself in that movie? Certain ideas?
Well, it's kind of some of the things that you are talking about. Well, um, my friend must be thinking this about me, and then I'll say this, and then she'll say this, and then we'll do this. And, it's all of a sudden I'm like, well, none of this is real because it didn't really happen. And I've made up this whole thing. And she was talking about how her husband had taken the kids and gone on vacation and she couldn't go. And so she made up all these things and got really mad at him because he was out having fun without her. But in reality, he didn't really have that much fun without her. And so once he got home, he was like, oh, I don't know. But I do that too. I mean, I start either picking up something from the past, a situation from the past and rewriting it and playing all the parts and it's and you get all emotional and you get everything gets going um and it doesn't need to because it's all made up.
Exactly. Isn't
Mm.
that interesting though? To say that out loud and to recognize that you have predetermined the ending before the actual situation is even a reality.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Like, remember those books we used to read as kids? I don't know if you guys read them. I was a big reader. My family didn't have TV for an extended period of time. And even when we did, it was very limited. So read lots of books, but some of my favorite were the ones that were called Choose Your Own Adventure, where you
Yeah.
got partway through the story and then you got to choose, do I want to choose this path or do I want to choose this path? And then based off the path, you would flip to whatever page it told you, and then you would have that outcome in the story.
Wow.
And we do that. Yeah, I'm definitely not creative enough to write that. I'll write you a research paper before I'll write a choose your own adventure book. So, but we do that every day in our lives, to your point, where we find ourselves in a situation where we predetermine what somebody else must be thinking and how they're going to respond to us. And all that does is limit the options that we give ourselves. How many opportunities have we said no to or passed by or not, even tiptoed into or explored at all because we decided on the front end it's probably not going to work out for whatever reason. I don't have the right degree, or I'm too young, or I'm too old, or I'm this particular gender, or that gender, or this belief system, or, everyone there looks a certain way and I don't look that certain way. Or just why would they pick me? It doesn't even have to be something specific. Sometimes we just decide on the front end that we don't have enough value to even step into the opportunity. And that's exactly why I call it a self-imposed suffering.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Were you gonna say
Yeah,
something?
go ahead.
Yeah.
I could love to go off.
I just wanted to comment on the fact that you said, and I'm not sure which one, uh, the predetermined ending,
Mhm.
where whatever triggers you, you then decide this is the answer, and then you backfill,
Yes.
where you come up with all your reasons why this is what it is. But you've already gotten there before you even looked at it.
Yeah.
Then you go and find all the little things to fill it in.
And
My
oftentimes, don't we call those red flags?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, look at all these red flags or
But
yellow
look at these
flags.
red flags that I've just made up because
Yes.
they probably weren't that. And my therapist and I call it spinning.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get spinning and I spin out of control and I have to reel myself back in. Yeah, I know Tom has comments.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I'd love to hear Jenna speak some more, actually.
Oh, I I'm not sure what else to say. I know that it seems like I know that I do this, and I think spinning and movies are kind of the same thing. Um,
Mhm. Absolutely.
yeah, it's just what we all choose to make it. But I find that I know that I've been doing these movies all my life, and it just seems like in the last year or so, I've been suddenly going, well, why? Why why am I doing this? And trying to stop myself, even though I may be stopping myself towards the end of the movie rather than the beginning. At least I'm going, all right, this is something I need to stop. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to, like you said, predetermine what is what is happening, because that takes you out of the moment, and this moment is what we have. And if you're in some movie, you're not even here.
Mm-hmm. So true. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is literally impossible to be in two places at once.
And I guess you have to kind of, once you figure out that you're doing this, you have to kind of decide, where do I want to be? Because I think too often
Interesting.
we go, oh, this movie is so much more exciting than the present, that I want to stay there. I don't,
Wow.
I but I don't want to anymore,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Huh.
Go ahead. What's in your brain? Tom.
What's news, brain?
Your brain.
Yours. Yours.
Gosh, that was awesome, Jenna.
Stop. Stop. Don't touch mommy's leg.
Yeah, because I make up stories all the time throughout like every part of my day and everything, and so uh, that was so cool what you just said at the end there of like maybe I don't want to lose where I'm at. Um, holy cow. Um, I don't know. I know that microdosing though, I very inconsistent with it, and when I do it though, it's things to be just tend to be a little bit whole lot better. So whether it's made up stories or not made up stories, uh, they all seem to be a little bit more gentle.
Let's talk about that for a minute though, because Just because we are noticing positive, helpful changes doesn't mean that that is actually what we always want. And that sounds a little messed up to say that, but if we really consider that there are aspects of when we are in what I'm going to call a miserable mindset to a certain degree, or in chaos, that can feel very comfortable. Oh, look, I knew this wasn't going to work out. Oh, yep, if I started feeling better all the time, then people would expect me to always feel better, and I just don't always feel good. And I want to be able to have a bad day now and then, so I'm just not going to always, jump on the bandwagon of feeling better and letting myself have a quieter mind. Sometimes it is a punishment to the self. I don't deserve it. What if it's not real? What if I'm just using this supplement as a coping mechanism and when I don't take it, I don't feel as well. I don't notice and perceive things the same way. I'm not as gentle of a human to be around. I'm a little more sharp on the edges. But you know what? That's just the way I am. And this is not a personal at all towards you, of course, for making the comments. It's just people in general. So in doing that, sometimes we can find that we keep ourselves in that negative way of thinking and in that mindset, and there is a reason we do it. And we do not always like to admit why we do it, because that's honesty with the self. And it's easier to just be like, well, people should just accept me for who I am, right? Well, that's just me. You can take it or leave it. Okay, bye. You know, that, and I say that jokingly to some degree, but think about it. What kind of people do we want to be around? And I'm not even going to put an idea out there. Just think about the kind of people you want to be around. Are each of us also that kind of person? Sometimes we like being around people that are really snarky, sarcastic, and I'm gonna call my mean girl, type of behavior sometimes, just kind of picking on people. Why do we choose that sometimes? Because there is an aspect of that that makes us feel a little bit better about ourselves. Oh, look, if we can find something wrong with somebody else, then at least I'm better than that. At least I didn't wear that outfit. Oh my gosh, I can't believe she wore that out in public. At least I didn't buy that particular car. Who does that guy think he is driving around some flashy vehicle? At least I didn't get that job. Now I don't have to have the responsibility of it. I can just sit over here and keep doing what I've always been doing and tell my spouse that, well, I didn't get it. And, we're just going to stay in this space forever because if I got it, I would have to raise the expectation of myself. I would have to change the way that I see myself. And if I shift that expectation, that can cause conflict somewhere else. I don't know if I'm capable of always meeting that expectation. So these fears that come around, we can hang on to them in a way that feels almost like self-preservation, even though it's not what we want. To your point a little while, you said, where do I want to be? Another way to phrase that is, what kind of life do I want? If we're going to start shifting what we want and really moving in that direction, we have to be okay with being a little bit uncomfortable.
Mm.
When we start microdosing, psilocybin changes the areas of the brain directly connected to thought itself. It reduces blood flow to the amygdala, fight or flight, fear, emotional responses, quiets that down. It quiets the default mode network. That's our movie line, right? That's the movie channel we have going of the stories we tell ourselves. That default mode network is all of those beliefs, those understandings of the world, the way we perceive ourselves, the way we perceive other people. That particular network gets going on autopilot. It's supposed to only be active when we're not focused on something else. The way that the human brain is designed, we either have executive functioning going or we have default mode functioning going. We're not supposed to have both of them on 100% all the time at the same time. But because of the lifestyles that we choose, and particularly in this day and age where it's a constant go, 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 something dinging over here, something vibrating over there, the watch is going, the iPad's going, the alarm is going, the phone is going, the car is driving, all of these things happening simultaneously with multiple humans and also jumping in on that. We're being pulled in a bunch of different directions, and we have created a situation where it is very hard to focus on one thing. And the brain gets used to that. It gets used to not being quiet. Not meaning without noise, just not being still. Always needing something to keep it triggering forward. So by quieting that default mode network, that is where MRI imaging shows psilocybin quiets that, and over time it resets. You can literally change the way that you think with the reset of that default mode way of thinking and perceiving. At the same time, psilocybin stimulating the prefrontal cortex, our executive functioning. So we are forward thinking in a different way. If we're not so distracted, then what are we choosing to focus on? If we're turning off the movie or the tape recorder or putting on those noise canceling headphones, I had someone use that analogy recently that I liked. It's like going to the gym, you put the headphones on or sitting on an airplane and you push the button, all of a sudden all you hear is your own music. Everything else is quieted down. That's a great analogy for psilocybin with that default mode network. When you're microdosing, you quiet down all that inner chatter that's nothing but distracting. It's just all of our problems that we've created.
Mm.
So at this, additionally, there's of course other things that are happening with neuroplasticity, creating new neural pathways, enhancing serotonin, things like that with the microdosing. But if we're going to really focus in on how is psilocybin helpful to shutting off the movie, putting on the noise canceling headphones, quieting down all that inner chatter, that's how it's quieting that default mode network. Then you get to choose, what do I want to focus on? What do I want to think about? How many of these problems that I'm having round and round in my head are self-imposed and things that I've created?
And I kind of want to chime in right there because a lot of those problems exactly are that they're problems that you're creating, like ripping you away from like the actual problem, like the real hard truth, and like you were saying before, like what, am I okay with like where I'm at? Once you silence all the the other problems, it's like at least in my experience, those feelings I had before, like those gut feelings that I had before, they get dialed up a little bit, and it's almost like those inevitable hard truths that I didn't want to accept before were like right before me, and it's like I had to face them. It was inevitable. I because I was distracting myself before, I was ignoring it, and with that silencing of the fear response, it was just like bing bing bing, here's my real problem. And what I noticed was like I was abandoning myself, really, and through small acts, and it happened over time and I didn't realize. And yeah, now I'm able to maybe create a map back to myself, and start to um, discover myself again. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. Once you silence all the other problems that you've created for yourself, it's like that one true problem is there staring you in the face, and it's inevitable, and it's been there all along, but you've been ignoring it, you've been blocking it out.
Yeah.
And it's still there no matter how much you try to numb it.
Yeah, because the numbing, all that's doing is dealing with emotions. Marijuana, alcohol, cigarettes, shopping, over exercising, overeating, too much chocolate cake. You all know that's my favorite. All these things that we choose to say, I just want to feel better right now because if I'm having some sort of sensual, emotional feeling that I like, then that distracts me from the things that I don't want to think about because they're hard and because they do have fear attached to them. And if I face them and I'm honest with them, I have to decide if they're true or not.
Hmm.
I like the analogy that you used about the map back to yourself, because if we have a map, and let's say we have a map to something and we're in an airplane and we're looking up over the topography from bird's eye view, and we're like, okay, I see the actual topography and I see the map and they don't match, which one is wrong? The map.
Yeah.
And the map is what we are given when our perfect little tiny human selves are put on this planet because we come in with no map. It's handed to us with our definitions, our experiences, our ideas, our belief systems, our education. All of that is handed to us, and we're like, okay, perfect tiny human, I know you thought you were great, but you're not. Here's all the things you need to do to look different, be different. Why? So I can feel better about me. Not because you're imperfect in any way. And I'm using the term perfect very lightly, right? Each of us are different. There is no such thing as perfect. But every human that comes onto this planet is exactly as nature has created them onto this planet. All the other humans are the ones like, yeah, there's something wrong with you. I'm going to give you a label of anxiety, and I'm going to give you a label of, narcissistic, and I'm going to give you a label of this or that, and all these labels that we take on, and not always mental health labels. There's thousands of labels out there that we can choose from, millions. New ones being created all the time if you watch the news long enough and find all the new words going in the dictionary these days. But these labels are what we are measuring ourselves against. This is the information that we're using to create the movie. It's everything that's been given to us. So that concept of abandoning yourself through the hiding and the coping and then trying to find the map to come back to yourself, the map is the map that you create. That's your journey, your path. Microdosing psilocybin allows for you to connect back to that natural state of being for yourself. And that's what I love about group is we all have different natural states of being. But the one common goal is the same, which is figuring out what that looks like for you. Not based off of what other generations prior have said that it should look like.
I have a example. And so, and this is kind of like once you know this, because before you didn't know, but once you know it, then you can kind of see it easier, right? And then so then you can do something about it or heal or start the process with the help of psilocybin. So my husband and I, and he's right here, so I'm not just talking behind his back or whatever. We were cleaning out our it's like a laundry room storage pantry, but so it's pretty much like half of the basement, and it was a big job to do, guys. And we would normally not do this together because normally it'd cause, some kind of spark and we'd be irritated and get going or whatever. So we'd separate. Well, we decided to take on this feat together, and we were halfway in and stuff. And then my husband starts like kind of getting irritated. And I was just like kind of trying to show him like, because I'm like an organization person. So I'm like, you need 3 different piles, like donate, trash, or find a spot for it or whatever. And you could just see he was in the storyline in his mind was not me helping him at all. It was like if I was nagging him or whatever. And I was like quiet, nice as can be. Like it was so not that, but the storyline in his head. And so because we come to this group and because we've been using psilocybin to heal ourselves and grow over the last year and a half, we're aware of it now. And so I was like, honey, that voice in your head right there, that's not me. Like that's the negative voice in your head. And so I just like pointed it out. And because we are aware of it now, he thought about it and he's like, actually, you're right. Like, because I was like, I'm not lecturing you. I'm not doing this or that. And then he was able to come back. I got a little hurt, and so that's the part I got to work on too. And so then I walked away, and he thought about it for a minute, and then he came up to me, and he's like, "You're right," and he apologized, which I didn't even need an apology. Him just saying, like, coming, snapping out of that storyline, and it's like, we're not enemies, we're teammates. And that before, it would have just not ever happened. And so because of even just bringing awareness to that, even that's a storyline going on, because honestly, I never even knew that was what was going on to begin with. But now that I know, I was like, okay, is this real, or is just this something that I've played in my head for so long, and that's just automatically what I go to? And so lo and behold, we'd finished it, guys, and that was, like, I'm telling you, it was hours later, and it looks so nice. I wish I could take you over there and show you how organized it looks. And we did it together, and we didn't end up in a fight. And it was like, you know what? So it's like we're rewriting the story. Like, it's not that story anymore. We're not enemies. We are a team, and we work together, and it was enjoyable. And who would say that was enjoyable? But it was enjoyable, and we feel like we accomplished something, and we did it together. And so I'm just, like, so grateful that we even know about it now, because he can remind me, or I can remind him, and hopefully it'll just start, like, our new thoughts will build, and we won't have that negative anymore. And of course, we all know it's not going to happen overnight or whatever. But before, I wouldn't even never known that's what was going on. I would have just assumed, like, that negative story in my head was the truth, and that is not the truth. And so now it's kind of like we get to challenge everything. And, some of it is the truth. And so then we have to cold, hard face, like, okay, well, I am being a witch or whatever, or like, whatever. But it's something that is noticeable now, and that we can actually choose to fix if needs to be fixed. And sometimes stuff doesn't need to be fixed. Like, it's just, we grow, we're humans. It's just, I don't know. So I just actually wanted to give that example, because we attribute it to, what we've learned over time, about ourselves and ourselves, as a couple. And we're just like, we're all in. So I don't know. I just wanted to share, guys.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Fuck yeah.
Exactly. 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 2 thumbs up. Good job. And the beautiful part of what you're recognizing there also and sharing that is that recognition is coming more naturally now. When we talk about the default mode network resetting, what does that actually look like? I mean, it's like, okay, well, it was red and now it's green. It's not like that. It's that we think differently, more autonomically. The new information becomes the new norm instead of the old information staying the norm. And I think that's where we really start to see those longer term benefits with the microdosing, is in recognizing how that neuroplasticity is continuing to enhance new neural connections, which means what? New ways of thinking, opportunities for new perspective, less brain fog, more conscious awareness, more cognitive recognition of things, instead of going based so much off of how do I feel about this? Because how we feel is always self-focused. When we talk about the idea of ego dissolution, we've talked about this previously in some groups, the ego is just an idea of the importance of the self. It's not tangible, not something we can touch. It is literally a concept. And to dissolve that concept is where we really get to have that shift in what we think about ourselves. And when we think less, not worse, just less about ourselves, less of what does this mean to me? How do I feel about it? What did they mean by that to me? Do they like me? Do they not? When all that quiets and we have less of that, we show up more authentically, and that gives other people in our life permission to also show up authentically, because they're no longer sitting in that same state of, well, what are they going to think about me, and how are they going to respond, and what is this going to look like? Because that's not how you're showing up anymore. So when that shift happens, it allows for freedom for yourself as well as the people around you. And especially when we have spouses like you described, both microdosing, you can sit in that gentleness together of encouraging each other in that new way of thinking. Because those most intimate relationships are the ones that have the strongest pull, where we really reflect on, what does this mean about me? If my spouse doesn't respond to me a certain way, what does that mean about me? Am I not valuable? Are they bored with me? Am I not exciting anymore? Are they going to go somewhere else? All those concepts that underlie that fear is what leads to all the games that happen in relationships. And all the games are just such a waste of energy. If we could really see, it's not always, spouse and significant other intimate partner relationships, also families, parents, siblings, people that are close enough that we call them family because they've had such a significant role in our lives. Those people that know us the best or the most, they might not focus on the best, but they've had the longest tenure with us. They see those things. And that's where a lot of our reflection of the idea of the self comes into play.
So what about the consistency with that? Like how to remain consistent? This to me, like I go to a lot of what you just said, Charity, with like there's a lot of present moment awareness that I think plays into everything you just said there. And it's like I'll find myself on like spouts where I'm like, oh my gosh, this has been going on for days, making up stories, believing them, or whatever the case may be. Or it'll be short term lived. And um, you know, everything that was just mentioned and a lot of the comments that were made here tonight, I mean, they're all awesome. They're all, uh, but to do it over and over and over and over again, like always, this is like how I live my life.
Mhm. And so there's two things. Number one is we can bang our head against the wall and tell ourselves how retarded we are for not being able to do this and how hard it is and keep trying to muscle through it. Or we can be really consistent with the microdosing and let the psilocybin do the work. Let the psilocybin do the physiological, structural changes that contribute to it being much easier to change the way that we think. It's like having the chocolate cake and the salad in each hand. And you're trying to say, okay, I'm gonna make healthier eating choices. I really want to choose this chicken Caesar salad. I know it's healthier for me. I got the dressing on the side. I'm just gonna get the good stuff here, all the protein, all the veggies. But man, this chocolate cake over here looks so amazing. I know it would taste delicious and it would be momentary, but it might be worth it because it's just easier. I don't necessarily like salad or whatever the stories are. And then someone comes over and then they smash the chocolate cake. And you're like, whoa, okay, gross. That's not nearly as appetizing anymore. I'll just go with the chicken Caesar salad. That is kind of like what psilocybin does in our thinking, because I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of individuals now through microdosing psilocybin and heard their stories and the changes, and the shift happens and we notice it retrospectively. Often when we're in those moments like you're describing, we're saying, okay, here's the moment. What am I going to do with it? But it is when you have fewer of those moments and you look back and think, wow, if this thing had happened 6 weeks ago, I would have responded so differently to it. Or a year ago, or today, I'm sitting in the chair that usually I want to just sit down and smoke a bowl and take in some THC and shut my brain off because I don't want to think anymore. And instead, I'm sitting here in the chair and I'm thinking about, why do I not want to smoke? Why does that not sound like something desirable? Why am I not wanting to escape from these thoughts? That is the kind of shift that happens with microdosing psilocybin for a continued period of time because of the neuroplasticity benefits, because of the quieting of the default mode network, because of all the physiological geeky science stuff that we talk about with this. All those things happening together are structurally changing the brain. The memories that are created and formed in the hippocampus, those serotonin receptors down in there are key. That is exactly where the psilocybin attaches. Let's change the story connected to the memory. Let's reduce that blood flow to the amygdala so we're not in fight or flight. We're not in that fear state or that idea of self-loathing or self-harm when that memory comes up. Now it's just a memory. Yesterday I ate this for breakfast, and also this thing happened 10 years ago. Okay, part of the daily story. But that happens over time with consistent microdosing. That is exactly why, I'm not a big proponent of go and do these big macro journeys, whether it's ketamine or mushroom or ayahuasca or anything else. Why? Not because those can't provide opportunity for some different perspective, but because that is so short term, no matter what substance is chosen. Ayahuasca, short term. Psilocybin, longer term than ketamine, but still short term. Ketamine, very short term. So rather than just saying, and don't do this thing where I just have this massive disruption to my system and I see all these cool things and I think really differently for a while, great, but then what?
Mm.
Then you just go get a new piece of chocolate cake and you don't have the smashed one anymore. It's just easier. That's why it's called default mode. It's easy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. It's like, well, those pathways that, were there are still there, right? Like we're not completely erasing them with the psilocybin. So, the brain's efficient, right? And it tries to go the least, the most direct path to protect itself. That's really what it wants to do, to protect itself, even if it's not healthy for us. What I see as the psilocybin doing though is it doesn't even fix it, right? The psilocybin, it doesn't even fix the problem. It just kind of shows us, hey, that this is there and it's up to you, and we can fix it. Um, it's just an indicator and saying, hey, you can fix this, but it's up to you. Do that work and not lean on old pathways. Let's create new ones.
Yeah, what if, Brian, just to kind of take that a little bit further and going back to that original question of humans have a substantial number of problems that they worry about every day that they themselves have imposed on themselves. So psilocybin, to your point, is able to not only say, hey, there's something deeper here that we really need to look at. The issue is not the issue, right? Whatever it is that we think is the issue, that's not it. It's what's down underneath it, what's driving that. But then at the same time, how much of those things that we look at as problems can really just disappear if we think about them differently. If I am constantly measuring myself by whether or not my parents agree with everything that I'm doing, and that's my one big thing in life because I was raised that your parents should agree with what you're doing no matter how old you are, then I would always be prisoner to what they thought. And anytime that I had an idea of myself of, oh, I think I could do this, or what if I did that, or what are they going to think about it, then that's all self-imposed. The real root is for me to decide that it's not about what my parents think. What do I want for my life? Obviously, I'm not 16 years old living in my parents' home anymore, but that's where a lot of these roots start. And it starts with parents, and then we or guardians or whoever might be that role at a young time in life, and then it translates to our friends, and then it translates to a partner, a significant other, and we're looking to that other person to always validate that we're okay. And then when they don't, or we say, well, I'm working on things, you should also be working on things. And they're like, I don't have any problems, then that's on them. They're choosing the belief system that they want to hold on to. But we have to choose, what do I want for my life? Do I want to stay living in this space of always measuring myself against somebody else's ideas? Or do I want to release that, set myself free from that, and really choose to think differently? And that is to the comment that was made earlier about coming to group consistently. That's exactly what these groups are for. Not because I have answers. I'm not giving any of you any answers. I'm giving you consideration for perspective on your own lives. And I do the same for my life. But we have to seek out some contribution to a different perspective or a different way of thinking, or we're really left with everything we had. So psilocybin is the conduit, to your point, to be able to say, hey, there's an opportunity for this to look different, for me to think different. What if I question everything that I thought was true?
Yeah.
Question the definition of success. That's easy. I mean, that's deep, but that's an easy one to pick on. What is success?
Mm.
What is love? What is respect?
Mhm.
All of those are words that we've been given that each one of us probably has a number of different ideas connected to just those three words. People that demanded respect, people that you just wanted to respect, people that you feel like you should respect. The idea of wanting to be respected, what did that mean? Does that mean then that I've made it if people respect me? How do I know they respect me? On and on and on. We can go down 1,000 rabbit holes, right? But those are the types of things that we have to start looking at for ourselves, because therein, all those definitions lies our perspective of ourself and every single thing that happens to us. And that's where we have an opportunity to shift. So we have about 10 minutes left. I could definitely stay on this group and keep this conversation going at least for 3 more hours. But I do want to respect everybody's time and coming tonight. I'm happy to still have people contribute to this particular conversation, but I do want to pause and just ask, did anybody come to group tonight with questions specific to microdosing, finding their dose, the dose they're currently using, when to increase? Any of that, any microdosing specific questions as far as the dose itself or strain or anything like that?
I did have a question, Charity.
Yes.
You had talked about capsules.
Mhm.
Um, are you going forward with that?
We do have capsules. Yep, the
Okay.
capsules come in 100 milligrams and 200 milligrams. So you have to go in at least 100 milligram increments.
Right. So they wouldn't work for me, but I'm thinking more for Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because then he could take them and take them.
Exactly. Can
Yeah.
make it easier.
Yeah, because that I think that's one of his problems with consistency is now that he's not at home all day,
Yep.
he doesn't have them because he likes to take it with lunch. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That is
So I'll
definitely
reach out to you on text and maybe we can switch our subscription or yeah.
perfect. And we can do a combination. So you can still get the powder and then we can include capsules.
Right.
We can
Okay.
definitely do that. Yep.
That's funny. I think this is Tom's problem.
Well,
Tom, we know it's your problem. Obviously, you're the man, right? Let's go back to those definitions and ideas.
I know you had mentioned that you were switching the capsules, and I thought that would be more helpful for him
Yeah,
than carrying powder around.
she's thinking on your behalf. She's trying to help. Let it go through the helpful lens. We have a question in the chat. I take 100 milligrams. I feel like I get really tired or yawn a lot. Curious if I need to lessen or do it twice a day. So sometimes that initial, for the person to ask that question, if you're just getting started on it, sometimes that yawning or that tiredness can be an initial response to the psilocybin itself. If you've been going for about 2 weeks and you're still finding that, go ahead and cut that dose back. Or maybe don't wait the 2 weeks, go ahead and cut the dose back and see if you notice, okay, you've added that it's been about 3 weeks. Yeah, I would go ahead and cut that dose back a little bit. You can certainly take 50 milligrams in the morning, 50 milligrams in the afternoon. See how that works for you. But those are the little things that we look for. A follow-up question to that would be, if you want to add this to the chat or text me later, is are you noticing the benefits that you're looking for with microdosing at that 100 milligrams? If you are, then let's talk about maybe some different ways to still get that dose. Possibly even taking 50 milligrams in chocolate it would, or 75 milligrams in the chocolate would be able to kind of get that initial onset for you. Okay, great. You're noticing the benefits. So yeah, so we want to try and keep some consistency around that dose because your brain is saying, hey, I like this amount of psilocybin. So if you want to reach out to me, either by text after or by email, and I will go ahead and just put the business line text number, I'll say out loud for the sake of the recording, is 719-639-4089. So 719-639-4089. That number comes directly to the office, and we can talk about some options that would potentially be able to keep you around that dose, but maybe alleviate a little bit of that yawning. Generally, the tiredness is a signal that, hey, the dose might be a little bit high. So let's see if we can mitigate that a little bit. All right, you got chocolate. Perfect. Sounds good. Let me know how that works for you with the 50 milligrams of chocolate in the morning and then in the afternoon.
The other thing that you recommended for me with that was to take it with my coffee in the morning.
Mhm.
And that really did help me.
Thank you for adding that. That's a great idea as well. Adding it with a little bit of caffeine helps get through some of those yawns sometimes if the dose is helpful, but not quite making it past 10 a.m. We don't want that.
I have a quick question too.
Yes.
I think I know the answer to this, but I still just want to be sure. So we have the grow your own thoughts thought box and we're growing. And then sometimes when we get the powder, it's more finely ground. I think that's the word ground. It doesn't, so as long as we're using the measurement spoon, it doesn't make a difference if it's finely ground versus having some like little stems or whatever in it. I don't know the terminology, but so I would think it would still be the same, but sometimes like maybe it doesn't fill the whole spoon or whatever. So if you could just give me a little on
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely. So you're correct in that if you get it from our company, we use a commercial grinder, so it is ground to a really fine powder. By weight, we know that that ground powder in that spoon is the 50 milligrams. If you are grinding it yourself at home and it's not ground as fine, typically that's not the same weight because larger pieces don't tend to compress as much. So the 50 milligram spoon might actually be, let's say, 40 milligrams, or 45 milligrams. It might not be exactly apples to apples there. So two things you can do. One, you could take a little scoop of what you've ground, weigh it on the scale inside the spoon, and see, weigh the spoon, tear it out, add your little scoop, find out exactly how much that weighs based off of how your grinder works. Or you can just use the spoon as a guide. If the spoon, as you are grinding it, is enough of a dose for you, or 3 of the spoons are, or 5 of the spoons are, or whatever it might be, then you can just use that spoon as a guide, so you're not having to weigh it out every single day. But the way we grind it and the way you grind it might not be apples to apples. So just double check that, and then you know how much the spoon holds based off of how you're grinding it. Helpful? Okay, perfect. There was another question in the chat. Will taking it at night keep you up? Possibly. So taking it at night is very dependent on the person. If you're just about 3 weeks in and you've been noticing some benefits at about 100 milligrams during the day, if you added 100 milligrams at night, that is probably going to keep you up. If you are getting halfway through the day, though, or maybe till about 4 o'clock and noticing that the benefits are not the same, wearing off a little bit, you're finding yourself a little more edgy or irritable, or you're not sleeping well, still, even with taking that microdose in the morning, you can absolutely add an afternoon or evening dose. My recommendation is take it no later than 6 o'clock at night if you're going to bed around 9 or 10. So, and to take about half the dose you take in the morning to start. So if you're taking, let's just say 100 milligrams in the morning, take 50 milligrams at night, no later than 6 o'clock, preferably around maybe 4 or 5. Let those stimulation benefits wear off. So, use that to your benefit between that, 4 and 8 o'clock time period of getting dishes done and potentially homework with kids or whatever your evening might consist of. Use that, and then the half-life is 2 hours and 43 minutes. So after about that 3-hour time period, you're going to be at half the dose of the active ingredient that you originally started with. That should be the right amount to kind of help your brain quiet down for sleeping and get some of those sleep benefits and not keep you up. So that was a long answer. Short answer, take about half the dose you take in the morning, take it no later than 6 o'clock at night, see what you notice, measure those benefits for you before you decide to increase that evening dose. There are some people that I know of that will literally take their dose right before they go to bed and it knocks them out. So again, you trust yourself, each of you in this journey, listen to your body, trust the way your body is responding and pay attention to that. I am a guide. The individuals in this group are all a guide as well. Again, the benefits of coming to group and having this collective conversation, but listen to your body, pay attention to what you're noticing and find what's most helpful to you. Just do it slowly and carefully, or you might end up with a really clean kitchen at 2 o'clock in the morning, like I did when I tested that philosophy, and it did not put me to sleep. So I don't think my kitchen's been that clean since, just saying.
What would be an indication to increase your dose?
It would be not noticing benefits. You know, if you have one of the dose and reflect cards, there's about 8 different things to reflect on there. Or if you have a copy of the book at the end of each week, there's some personal reflection points. Sometimes you hear the word subperceptual when it comes to microdosing, and we've talked about definitions tonight. The definition of subperceptual means below the threshold of perceiving something. You absolutely should perceive something with microdosing. It is subhallucinogenic. We are not looking for, you know, the bright colors and the walls moving and all of that, typically with a microdose during the day, but we are looking to perceive benefits. You should perceive that your mind is a little quieter, you're a little more focused, you're a little less sharp around the edges. You're noticing things a little bit differently. When I say microdosing is not about how do you feel, it is what do you notice. So if you are not noticing benefits, then you want to go ahead and increase that dose.
And I might say to that, I don't necessarily dose every day, and I'm actually noticing not like what benefits am I reaping just from that specific, it's like more extrapolated. What overall benefits am I able to internalize problems that I need to focus on? And this just overall is able, you know, I'm able to focus on that. So not just specific that dosage that day. What am I feeling now? It's more of a, I guess, overall perspective I'm finding from microdosing maybe 3 times a week.
Yeah, and you've been dosing pretty consistently for a while now, so you've really come to understand what those benefits are for you and how it's helpful and what type of regimen, so to speak, is most helpful for you. And that is exactly where each person gets as they go through their journey of using the microdosing. For someone just starting out, I would recommend microdosing every day as long as you tolerate it. Again, listen to your body. I had somebody reach out recently and say that, you know, she noticed a lot of benefits, but also she was getting a headache. So she started microdosing every other day. The headaches went away after about the first week, and then she started microdosing every day, no more headaches, and then, you know, her body adjusted, and now she has increased her dose. So listen to your body, but especially initially dose every day if you're willing to. Increase that dose. Go up until you're finding some benefits for you. Sometimes we figure out our dose because we take a little extra 50 milligrams and we're like, oh, that was too much. My brain's a little foggy. That feels a little weird. I feel a little bit off. Again, give yourself an hour or two. That's going to taper down because of that short half-life. But also, you should be perceiving benefits. And there should be things that you're noticing. Where are you at with the dosing right now?
I'm about a month in, 100 milligrams every day,
Okay.
but I almost feel like sometimes I don't feel anything
Yep.
different,
Have you
depending
tried?
on the stress of the day.
Yeah, that's a fair point as well. Absolutely. Have you tried taking 2 capsules in a day?
Um, at the beginning, I tapered back. I was heavy at the beginning, and I thought one capsule was good, because I wasn't, you know, getting those negative side effects or the, you know, yeah, I'm considering increasing it, listening to tonight.
Yeah. Another thing you can do if you have the capsules is you can open the capsule. So it's just a little vegan gel cap, just twist it real gently. You can open the capsule and then just take a half. So take your one and then take another half and see what you notice with that. And if you're finding that that is helpful, then we can either increase the number of capsules sent to you every month, or we can send capsules and some of the ground powder with a little 50 milligram microdosing spoon. And that gives you a chance to get that extra little, 50 milligram dose without having to open the capsules every time too. So that's definitely an easier, less laborious way to get that extra 50 milligrams if it's helpful. And it's the same dose, golden teacher to golden teacher. The capsules are golden teacher, the powder would be golden teacher. So let me know, shoot a text into the office or an email or something. Let us know if you want to switch that up. Even if you're just like, hey, can you send an extra gram of powder this month so I can try the larger dose? Absolutely. We'll just send it out to you. So. I did have someone else in the chat said that they noticed the golden teacher gave them a boost and the chocolate, he could take at night and sleep just fine. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's a great example of someone taking a nighttime dose of the chocolate and just knocking out and go to sleep. That it's interesting with the chocolate, it seems to be either one or the other. Either it knocks you out, makes you tired, or it really gives you the boost and wakes you up and is the opposite of tired, where the stimulation effects are a lot stronger. So that is something to, again, play with, try it for yourself, see how it's helpful to you. That just personal story, my husband and I are the opposite with that. For me, if I take literally a fourth of a square. So friends, we're talking about, 0.06 to 0.07 of psilocybin, but a little tiny fourth of a square of the chocolate, it is a lot more stimulating for me than just taking the ground powder. My husband takes a much higher dose. I think he was originally at a gram, so he's a great example of someone who has tapered back his dose over time as that healing has happened. He was at a gram, then a half a gram. Now he's at generally around 300 milligrams on the days that he doses. But he'll take a square of that chocolate, which is 250 milligrams, right before bed and go to sleep. I'm like, how do you even do that? It's like a sedative for him, but our brains operate differently. For him, that just quiets his brain down, helps him be able to go to sleep. So thank you for adding that to the chat because yeah, each person is different. That is finding the type of supplement that works for you, the honey, the chocolate, the tea, the powder, the capsules. That's why we have so many options so that you can really personalize it and find out what works for you. Any other questions or thoughts to kind of wrap up group tonight? All right. Well, everyone's getting class. Yeah, good.
I just wanted to quickly thank you for hooking me up with one of your therapists. April, we got connected and had a session, so that's great. And you also had mentioned before, like the what was it, the white albino, like was gonna maybe roll out, and I was just like, yeah, what that's gonna look like, and yeah, ask about that.
Yeah, awesome. So we are adding a strain in September. It'll be True Albino Teacher. So for those of you that are
Okay.
interested in cultivating something different, then True Albino Teacher you will see on the website where you can get that in your thought box if you're interested in getting a different strain. So yeah, and I'm glad that you are enjoying the therapist. We do have such a great counseling team. I'm so elated to have the individuals that we have. If anyone is looking to get connected with a counselor, again, we do have an awesome team. For those of you that already have therapists, stick with your therapist. We highly respect those therapeutic relationships that exist. We appreciate working with you just in the microdosing aspect. But for anyone that is on the hunt or starting to think a little bit differently about some of the things that might be coming up for them, we have a great counseling team and would love to get you connected with someone from our team. So I am going to go ahead and stop the recording for tonight. Thank you all for being here and for contributing. I appreciate it, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. And for those of you that are listening online, feel free to check us out at growyourownthoughts.org, and you too can jump in and join group live.